Once upon a time, in the heart of a dense and ancient forest, lived a poor woodcutter and his wife. It was the worst winter the village had seen in many years, and there wasn't enough food for everyone. The couple struggled to feed themselves and their 2 children, Hansel and Gretel, and with each passing day, they grew thinner and weaker. The stepmother hated her stepchildren and wished they would just disappear. She told the woodcutter that he should take the children deep into the forest and abandon them. That way, he could get rid of them, and no one would ever know what happened. Of course, this broke the woodcutter's heart, but he had no other choice. If he didn't do something, his children would starve to death. He took Hansel and Gretel into the forest and told them to stay put while he went to chop some wood. He gave Hansel his bag of breadcrumbs so that the boy could follow the trail back home. But Gretel kept looking around. She knew that they were in real trouble. When she turned to her brother, she saw that he had already eaten all the breadcrumbs, and now he looked very frightened. "Don't worry," Gretel whispered to him. "I will take care of you." She looked around and saw plenty of bird droppings on the trees and bushes. So she collected some of it and started throwing it behind them as they walked. That way, Hansel could follow the trail home. But unfortunately, when they had been walking for a long time without finding their way out of the woods, Gretel realized that the birds had also eaten their breadcrumb trail. Now they were truly lost. But then something magical appeared before their eyes. It was a beautiful house made of gingerbread, candy, and sweets of all kinds. There was icing on the walls, gumdrops on the roof, and windows made out of honey. It was the most wonderful house Gretel had ever seen. "Oh, I'm so hungry," said Hansel. "If only we could get inside that house, I would gladly give up my life." Gretel pulled him back. She didn't trust the strange house or the forest they were in. All she could think about was how she missed their father. But just then, the door opened and a little girl came out. She was wearing a nightgown and an apron, and she invited the children to come inside. As soon as they stepped foot inside, everything seemed to sparkle. There were lollipops and chocolate bars everywhere. On top of that, sweet music was playing. But Gretel noticed that their host was a dirty and ugly witch. She had a hooked nose and green hair. She was so greedy that she wouldn't even let the children eat any of the candy. Instead, she locked them inside and told them that they would have to work for her if they wanted any food. The children agreed, but they quickly realized that the witch had tricked them. She made them scrub the floors and clean the dishes, but never gave them anything to eat. Then she put them in a small, dark room and closed the door. Hansel and Gretel cried for their mother, but their cries went unanswered. And so they spent the first night in the witch's house without any food or water. The next morning, the witch came back and said that she would give them breakfast if they did all the chores. Once again, she made them clean the house and polish her furniture until it sparkled. But still, she didn't give them anything to eat. When she left the room again, Gretel said to Hansel, "I'm so hungry that I could eat a horse." "Me too," said Hansel, "but there's nothing here for us to eat." Just then, Gretel got an idea. She told her brother to go outside and collect some dry leaves and branches. Hansel did as he was told, and together they built a small fire in a corner. The witch returned and was furious to see that they had made a fire. She grabbed a poker and started poking at the logs. "If I had a real fire going, I would roast both of you," she shouted. "You can't do that because you don't have a proper oven," said Gretel smartly. "What are you talking about?" asked the witch. "I need an oven in order to bake a nice pie. I'm not even hungry anymore." "Don't be silly," said the witch. "I have the biggest and best oven in the entire forest. She showed them a large iron box in the corner of the room. "That's not an oven," said Gretel. "It's far too big. You could fit a whole cow in there." The witch thought for a moment. She really wanted to bake a delicious pie, but she couldn't do it alone. "Very well," she finally said. "We will build a proper oven together." Then she told Hansel to gather more branches and leaves. He brought them to the door and laid them out in front of the witch. "Good," she said. "Now I'm going to use these branches to make a fire in my big oven." She went to the corner and started putting the branches into the iron box. When she opened the door, Gretel pushed her inside. Before the witch knew what had happened, she was surrounded by flames. She screamed and tried to get out, but it was too late. Soon the flames died down and all that was left was the smell of burning hair. Gretel ran to the door and threw it open. "Quick, Hansel, we have to get out of here," she shouted. They ran away as fast as they could, and soon they heard the witch screaming after them. Once they were far away from the witch's house, they started looking for their way out of the woods. But it was getting dark, so they had to find somewhere to hide for the night. They found a small cave and curled up next to each other for warmth. In the morning, they continued walking through the forest, and after a few hours, they saw their village in the distance. Finally, they were saved. When they ran into their father's arms, he couldn't stop crying. He had been looking for them everywhere, and he was so happy to have them back. He led them home, and when they entered the house, they saw a nice pot of soup on the table. All their neighbors had come to help, and they welcomed Hansel and Gretel like heroes. After they ate, Gretel went to her room and took a small bag of jewels out of her pocket. She had taken them from the witch's treasury when they escaped. She gave the bag to her father and said, "Here, you can buy lots of food with this." Her father hugged her and thanked her for saving the family. From that day on, they lived happily ever after. Gretel became known as the smartest girl in the village, and Hansel was known as the luckiest boy in the world.